want me to make a short summary today, or do you want me to make a relatively detailed summary to you today? A detailed summary would mean if you know this, then you will know what will be covered in class. Okay, but then I know that I inform you, I'm more than happy to do so. This will take some time, okay? Which means then we will have to go a bit afterwards. I will have to rush through some of the content, but I will be able to do so, okay? Please be then aware after the break, sometimes I'm really boom, 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 okay? Because there are still some concepts I like you to take away from class, even of today's session, and not only dedicate today's session to summary, okay? Is it clear? Yeah. Are you with me on this? Okay, good. I'm more than open to do so. Don't worry. So, let's take off. We basically I came into class and said, job number 1 of management is value creation. And to be able to create value, what you need to do? Growth in double digits. Double digit growth, not over 1 year, not over 2 years, but over the next 10, 15, 25 years. And basically this requires you to be able to do things, namely governing existing value trajectories, while at the same time opening up new value trajectories. Now, we basically said it's very simple to understand why it's not enough to govern existing value trajectories because of the industry, the product and industry life cycle. And so over time in an industry, no, it's okay, don't worry. Over time in the industry, you will come to slower growth rates, and it's quite difficult to believe that you will be the one single company being able to grow double digits, while all others are only able to grow at single digits. So we can understand it, all managers will understand it, but we saw empirically that very few companies have been able to deliver double-digit growth rates and therefore able to create value over a sustained period of time. And basically we gave 3 reasons why it's so difficult for companies to be able to do so. The first reason was that opening up new value trajectories implies to go after a different alternative customer group. Now the issue is not only that it's a different alternative customer group, but it's a customer group that in great many cases does not exist yet. And so basically it is your act of entrepreneurial action that allows those customers to be transformed in, those non-consumers of technology to become transformed into customers. And so the example we gave was the example of Starbucks. There were millions of Americans who wanted to drink coffee, but not the way it was served to them by the other players. And so Starbucks came in and through their entrepreneurial act transformed the non-consumers of coffee into customers, of coffee served by the cup into customers. There were millions of Europeans who wanted to travel, but not the way it was offered to them by the established players, British Airways, Lufthansa, Air France. They would just not travel, but if offered to them in a different way, coming up with a new value proposition, a new value delivery system, then were they more than happy and willing to do so. Or Red Bull, there were millions of people around Earth who wanted to drink an energy drink. They just did not know why ever they should drink an energy drink. But once Red Bull explained them that they need an energy drink, they were happy to embrace it. So of course it's difficult to assess an opportunity against a customer base that does not exist. And so therefore we understand why companies have difficulty to do so. Second reason is that you have to face lots of ambiguity and uncertainty. And we define uncertainty as difficulty to give a probability to an outcome taking place, and ambiguity, difficulty to give a meaning to an event taking place. And as customers are faced with both ambiguity and uncertainty, they basically don't know how to make resource allocation and decisions in the face of those two dimensions, and therefore prefer not to make them. Third dimension is that you need to benefit from different tools and methods. So the way you go about identification, the way you go about concept evaluation, the way you go about market sizing, the way you go about launch has to be inherently different. And given this, fundamentally, the companies have difficulties because it seems that they are now start becoming eclectic in the decision-making process, and they don't like to be accused of being eclectic. And we saw that companies are basically exposed to two phenomena. One, we have to come to name the Red Queen effect, to characterize as the so-called Red Queen effect. And the other one as the so-called Xerox rounding error. So what do we mean with Red Queen effect? What do we mean with Xerox rounding error? Red Queen effect basically means that it's not that you're not launching new products, it's not that you're not investing in new technology. You launch new products, your competitors react, they catch up, they launch a new product, you need to react to catch up, you launch again new technology, and basically you and your competitors are running like hell, competing against each other, always launching new products. It's like a race and racing, but running like hell, not to go anywhere in terms of value creation for investors. You run like hell just to stay still, or even to destroy value. And what is the alternative, or what is the response to the Red Queen effect? The response is not only being able to do offering innovation, what those companies are good at, so servicing their existing customers through new products, or trying to go after adjacent customer segments through a new product, but being able to come up with market innovation, outmaneuvering competition through innovation, creating a market, creating demand where there was no demand before, turning non-consumption of the technology into customers of this technology. The other phenomenon companies are exposed to is the so-called Xerox rounding error. What is the meaning of a Xerox rounding error? The problem for multinational corporations is not they don't have the right ideas or the right technologies. Lots of persons in the company come up with the ideas for new business opportunities. Their engineers might even develop the new technologies that will come to characterize the future. But when they then have to go from the ideation process to the launch process, by definition, given the decision-making processes, the operating routines, the mindset they apply, they will give a no-go decision to it. And so basically companies make a type 2 error, giving a no-go decision to a valid business idea. And so what is the response to it? The response is to become ambidextrous. Being able to have different decision-making systems, different operating routines, and different mindsets within your corporation. Ambidextrous means basically being able to do with the left hand something inherently different than what the right hand does. So you can't one hand playing piano, with the other one playing saxophone, okay? And so basically you in your corporation, on one hand, understanding how to innovate, to launch new products for your core customer group in your existing value trajectories, while at the same time having an inherently different approach to innovation that allows you to open up new value trajectories.
Is market innovation the same thing as opening up a new value trajectory?
Inherently, in my definition, yes.
So what I don't understand is that the solution for Red Queen effect is to do offering innovation and market innovation.
Yes.
And the solution for Xerox rounding error is to be ambidextrous, which means basically do the...
Yes, exactly.
So it's the same solution.
Inherently, yes. The one solution that talks about the markets as reference points. So basically saying Here it's about offering innovation, here about market innovation. So the reference point is different markets. In the other solution, the self-surrounding error, it's a structural solution. So basically how in the company inside you have to structure yourself in your decision-making processes. And basically, the issue of the self-surrounding error, it's not the problem for large established corporations, it's not to hire smart people. They are good at hiring smart people. I mean, Xerox had the smartest minds on earth. But basically, their problem is a structural problem. The way they go about the decision-making processes, they will even to the ideas of the smartest people on earth give a no-go decision. So it's not enough to hire smart people if you cannot innovate. You need to structurally respond to it. Okay. Thank you. So when you launch these different types, these new different value trajectories, you need to launch different types of new products. And so we came up with a typology of new products, from not new products such as conversion substitution products, to seasonal products, which are not really new, to me-too products, to line extension products, to equity transfer products, and classically innovative products. What are equity transfer products? Basically, that you as a company enter a new product category. So for you, it's a really huge innovation effort because you need to become familiar with a market structure that you're not familiar with. You need to become familiar with underlying engineering know-how that you're not familiar with. But fundamentally, for the customer, you are not creating something inherently new the customer's never exposed to, because you're entering a category that already exists with existing competition. On the other hand, classically innovative is exactly you creating a new category where there was no category before. So it's a new to the world product. So basically, the retailers would on the shelves of the supermarkets dedicate to you shelf space to a category to which they did not dedicate shelf space before. And so you create something really new that will cater to occasion of usage on behalf of customers. Of course, if you launch different types of new products, you need to have a portfolio of new product initiatives. And so we introduced the concept of strategic buckets or bubble diagrams. And so for you as a company, you need to decide what you put on the matrix, on the axis of the matrix, being extent of process change or extent of product change, being extent of product newness, extent of market newness. You can be free, but you just need to decide what is on those axes. And strategic familiarity, market familiarity, technological evolution. But you need to set up such a diagram that will tell you how much resources will I want to allocate to what typology of new products.
When you talk about the different kind of new products, are there products from governing existing value trajectories or from opening up?
So fundamentally we said up to line extension products, maybe to a certain extent even, line extension products and to a certain extent even equity transfer product is governing existing ones, whereas opening up new ones is equity transfer in brackets or classically innovative. Pleasure. And we fundamentally said what you need to come up with a growth portfolio of new products, i.e. explain me how much revenue growth you will generate from what typology of new product. So how much generate growth from substitution products, how much from me-too products, how much from line extension, equity transfer, or how much from classically innovative products, to be able then to achieve your double-digit growth rates in revenues. And then now that I know how much revenues growth comes from classically innovative products, how much resources do I have to allocate to it to make it happen? And we introduced the concept of the PIC. PIC stands for Product Innovation Charter. And we said basically it's a document made up of 4 sections: background, focus, guidelines, and objectives. And basically a PIC allows you as a corporation to assess what are the business you want, whether the new product initiative is proposed to you is a product initiative you want to pursue because it's in line with the product innovation charter or not. So it's basically a high-level top management document that complements your new product portfolio activities that we have designed here. Are you with me on this? Basically, this was conceptually the setup of our course. And then we said, let us now go in the different stages, understand the different stages and the tools in the different stages. So the first stage we covered was basically the stage of governing existing value trajectories and opportunity identification for governing existing value trajectories. And so fundamentally what we addressed is the first thing you need to do is market research. In market research we said you need to distinguish between market research strategy, market research approach methods. We distinguish three types of strategy: explorative, descriptive, causal. Two kinds of approaches, qualitative and quantitative, and said the kind of methods you apply is an outcome of your strategy and approaches. So if you want to have an explorative approach, understand the purchase drivers, you will, for the strategy, you will take a qualitative approach and use interviews or focus groups. If you want to have a causal strategy, you will use a qualitative approach and will rely on surveys, questionnaires with Likert scale questions, which then allow you to run a regression analysis. And we do this market research to identify gaps in the marketplace. And so we introduced the concept of gap analysis. And in gap analysis, we said inherently there are two approaches among the different. One is that we call AR approach, the other one OS approach. AR stands for attribute rating, OS for overall similarities. And we distinguish them in terms of input, analytical procedure to apply, output, and the context within which to be used. And so what is the input in AR? Fundamentally you're saying, I want to understand what are the purchase driver within my business. And so basically, what is the underlying latent variable along which customer make purchase decisions? Is it design of the product? Is it performance of the product? Is it safety of the product? Whatever it is. And so basically, what you do is you first do a focus group, identify all the attributes customer take into consideration with the focus groups and interviews, and then make a large-scale survey to make an assessment, always from 1 to 7 on Likert scale. I completely agree to I completely disagree to on all those attributes. And so basically, the input is attribute assessment. The analytical procedure is factor analysis that allows us to extract the underlying dimensions, and the output is a perceptual map. And basically, it gives you the factors, so the key success factors, factor 1 or factor 2, along which customers make purchase decisions, so the most relevant factors, and basically in there the responses of the different customers. So basically a customer that responded high on the attributes that load highly on factor 2, but low on the attributes that load highly on factor 1 will end up here, whereas a customer that takes into consideration both factors responded to the attributes that load highly on factor 1, factor 2, and highly on factor 1. I completely agree. And so you have basically in here how the different customers, what are the purchase drivers and how they react to different purchase drivers. And then what I do, cluster analysis, to identify the number of groupings and who is belonging to which grouping. So we use the dendrogram of hierarchical methods as a method to identify the number of groupings, and then you can either through hierarchical methods or better even through partitioning methods to allocate group membership. So the two fundamental questions is how many groupings and who is belonging to which grouping. And basically the context in which this is used is when customers can articulate their preferences on the different attributes that you suggest to them. And normally we say it's used especially when it comes to durable good, high involvement good, and in a business-to-business marketing context. On the other hand, and we saw the example of a yogurt, sometimes even though you have been eating or consuming a product for a great many years, even decades, you never really thought about what is the what are the attributes that really drive your purchase behavior. You make a global assessment. You know why you like one yogurt more than another yogurt, but you could not tell me in detail it's in terms of density or cremosity of the yogurt it's this, in terms of the packaging it's this. You just like it more. You always go for this one. And so what you are able to assess, whether you perceive them to compete for your business or not, i.e. whether you perceive them to be similar to each other or not. And so basically the overall similarities makes a global evaluation of the product and asks you to, for the perceived similarity, dissimilarity, so an assessment of similarity, dissimilarity through pairwise comparison. The analytical procedure is multidimensional scaling, and the output is also a perceptual map. Where basically it is indicated to you which products are perceived to be similar to each other. So these customers basically perceive on one dimension product 1 and 3 to be very similar to each other, but another dimension to be very different from each other. And then you have basically to do ex post analysis to get an understanding what is it that is on those dimensions. How can I explain that those two products are on one dimension to be perceived very similar to each other and on another dimension to be perceived very different from each other? And so basically, in the end, you come back to attributes, but on one hand, you use the attributes as the input dimension to identify what are the purchase drivers, and on the other hand, you use it as descriptors. So you use not the attributes to identify the perceived similarity, dissimilarity. You don't use the attributes to create a perceptual map, but you use the attributes as a descriptor to tell me how can I explain what is indicated on a perceptual map. And so context in which this is used is if it's difficult for customers to visualize or articulate the preferences, or low involvement products, fast moving consumer goods, and in a consumer marketing context. Are you with me on this? Okay. We then moved on and said, you know what? Gap analysis is good, very good, and should benefit from the insights you can get from the gap analysis. Yet, when it comes to opening up new value trajectory, probably you will just not be able to get the kind of insight that you're looking for from gap analysis. And we gave basically 4 conceptual arguments for it, because opening up new value trajectories means becoming a type 3 company. So leading customers where they want to go but don't know it yet. So customers through their market research could probably not tell you this. So graphically we present it like this. You don't go after the served customer group but unserved customer groups. This is what basically Rainer did. You don't go after articulated needs but unarticulated needs, and this is basically what Starbucks did. So the whole issue is tapping into unarticulated needs, and we introduce the concept, the third argument, of the knowledge conversion cycle. So given that knowledge creation is interaction of explicit and tacit knowledge, you need to go through the whole knowledge conversion cycle, the SECI process. So basically not only doing combination, but also internalization, socialization, and externalization. Okay. And fundamentally we meant, this implies, look not only what people say, but also look at what people make and do. And so we said, the good news is that there are tools that allow you to do so. It's just that you need to go out and benefit from those tools, and we discussed those tools, and we identified fundamentally 5 tools that allow you to do so. lead user analysis, empathic design, human factors research, customer case research, and metaphor elicitation. So the first one is lead user analysis. And so basically, lead user analysis, we basically went out there and said, out there are customers that have a need before the commonplace that will be common in the marketplace. And this need for them is so relevant that they are even willing to invest their own effort, time, and resources to make this need, to find a solution for this need. And they invest their resources, financial resources, and time resources, and intellectual resources to make it happen. Basically, they come up in often with a solution. So fundamentally, they invent what will you be able to integrate as a new technology in your product. They create they decide almost a new product for you. All you need to do is to go and reach out to them and bring them into interaction process with you and co-design with them the new product. And so basically the issue is, how can I go and identify those lead users? And we discussed the networking technique to identify those lead users. So you need to network yourself up within one technical field to go to another technical field, to go to a third technical field, where you will then eventually find the kind of lead users that you're looking for. And so we said basically why it's not enough, why a simple structured questionnaire will just not do fine, but you need to benefit from the networking technique. We also gave to you the scales of lead user analysis and said in what context you might benefit when it comes to concept evaluation from those scales of lead user analysis. Next was empathic design. Basically immerse yourself into the world of the customers, spend a day with the customers. Human factors research, we discussed the example of Barilla and how they bring in customers in the kitchen. Customer case research, basically saying there are hidden decision makers, untapped segments, anticipated decision making, unanticipated decision making criteria, and basically gave the example of Netflix for closing the account of the refrigerator, or how to get rid of the refrigerator. So go down even to the disposal experience. Do not look at only the first steps. And metaphor elicitation as a tool. Of course, if you have to elicitation. If you have to go from unarticulate needs to become them explicit needs in the externalization process, this very often happens through metaphors and analogies. And so basically, how can I go and elicit those metaphors or analogies? Okay. Then we also introduced another tool. Yeah.
Could you repeat the last 2 points, please? Customer research and the metaphor elicitation.
So basically, customer case research, we said you should go to the whole experience of a customer from the very, very beginning, from the recognizing the need and evaluation experience, down not only the purchase experience, not only post-purchase behavior, but down to the disposal experiences, and fundamentally understand what you could improve on all those experiences to make it happen. We call those the user-oriented techniques. Okay. Then we moved on and said, well, we can also benefit from another technique, namely the technique of the product templates. And what is the technique of the product templates fundamentally saying? It's saying sometimes we might not take as the starting point the voice of the customer for ideating, for coming up with ideas for new products, but we might take as a starting point the voice of the product. And so we basically gave 3 conceptual arguments for this, and saying we should not look inside the box, we should not try to do outside of the box thinking, but we should look inside the box, and the box is basically your product. So you take your product as a starting point for coming up for ideas for new products. Given that your product survived again in the marketplace against competition of other products, there must be something good about your product. And so basically maybe your product could be a good point for finding out what you could improve on them to come up and create even more customer value. And the third argument, I will come to your question, the third argument basically being, look at how the market might evolve, not by studying customer trends, but by looking at the DNA of the product and then applying the 5 templates of innovation.
Is this under the governing existing or opening these templates?
So product templates is a good methodology when it comes to open identification for governing existing ones, because you always need to assess it, the templates, against the assessment of a customer. Okay. Now, then we discussed the 5 templates, the template of subtraction. I basically said sometimes it's not about adding new features into it, but it's about removing features. And so by almost adding features, you create complexity. Let us try to remove features and create in this more customer value. And we gave the example of the Philips DVD player. Then we looked at the multiplication and said, well, sometimes you could use one feature and multiply it, and hopefully by multiplying you do create a qualitative change and only quantitative change. And we gave the example, the Mach 3. And we said division. In division we distinguish there is functional division, physical division, preserving division. We saw the example of the detachable radio stereo panel. We saw the example of the probiotic culture of the yogurt and other examples. And we said another template is a template of task unification. Okay, in task unification, we gave the example of the radio antenna for the car, or the so-called hybrid products. So the Nike together with Apple and the running shoe that will create more customer value. And then attribute dependency change, where there was no relationship between 2 attributes. You basically create a relationship between 2 attributes. Okay? And we gave the example of Domino's Pizza, or the example of the changing color lid of the tea that signals to you now it's okay to drink your hot tea.
Sorry. What was the example for multiplication?
Multiplication, the Mach 3 from Gillette.
Oh,
That's basically, that is, the first blade is cutting your hair, then the second blade is stripping out your hair, so the third blade can cut it even deeper. Okay. Are you with me on this? So these were basically the tools for identification. So basically here you have fundamentally on Blackboard the tools for identification. Then after identification we said, let us go into concept evaluation. And so basically the issue of concept evaluation is, before I put it in development, I cannot put so many ideas into development. Let me assess whether some of them are really worth the effort. So let me assess the marketability of ideas. Let us introduce a new stage in the product development process. I better spend a little bit money now in concept evaluation than spending lots of money on development and then finding out I should never have spent money on it. And so I introduced the stage of concept evaluation. In concept evaluation, we distinguished between the purpose of concept testing. We discussed the design of concept testing, and then we looked at the tools of concept testing. So in the purpose, basically, we looked at 3 purposes, namely the purpose of idea improvement. So by doing concept testing, your customers might give you feedback and might bring you to ideas you did not think about. Sales estimation, it will give you a better assessment on purchase intentions of customers and therefore a better assessment on how sales might evolve in the marketplace. And screening, the screening aspect, and the screening aspect is basically the one we focused on, giving no-go decision to the different concepts. And in design, we said you can distinguish between only looking at concept statement board plus visuals, or concept statement boards plus prototypes. And when it comes to concept statement board, we distinguish between establish and strip down, and make the argument why an embellished version is more appropriate to use in most contexts than a stripped down version. In visuals, we said, yes, benefit from the different visuals you might have, such as videos, pictures, making a sketch of the new product, but do not only use one picture, one sketch, one video, but use several of them, because else you run the risk that basically because you use a specific green color the customer does not like, or because you use in your sketch a specific shape the customer does not like, she or he does not understand that it's about ideating the product, assessing the product rather than this green color or the shape, and might give you a no-go decision to what he or she would have considered basically be a valid business idea. When it comes to prototypes, we say yes, benefit from prototypes is better than having just visuals or just a concept statement board, and we distinguish between virtual prototypes and real prototypes. And basically we said, go out there and try benefit from virtual prototyping if you can only do so, but please be aware that to a certain degree you run the risk that people might make an assessment of the virtual prototyping session, a new experience they go through, and might give you rather a go/no-go decision on the experience they have in virtual prototyping session than on the product idea itself. And when it comes to real prototypes, we say go and benefit from them. We distinguish between prototype exposure and prototype trial, and we said whenever you can, do go down the road of even prototype trial and not only prototype exposure. And the tools will be distinguished between compositive tools and decompositive tools. So what are you doing? Compositive tools, basically you compose customer value. And so for composing customer value, basically it's what is the so-called fishbone approach. It's about the relative relevance of attributes multiplied by the relative performance of the attribute. And so basically we said, well, this you use especially when it comes again to high involvement product, business to business context, business to business marketing, durable products, or where customers are very knowledgeable about the products. Okay. And the decompositive approach is similar to what we did with overall similarities analysis. We say the customers are able to make a global evaluation. Because what is the problem if you go to customers and ask them that whether they want to increase the screen size, the battery capacity, the thickness of the phone, they will always respond you yes, but then they have to make a decision in the context of a trade-off. And basically in a trade-off it might be that even although you deliver the features they indicated to you, but given a trade-off they might opt for others. And so basically you go out there, you show to the customer different cards or profiles with the attribute levels and attribute levels of the existing products in the marketplace, plus the new innovative card profile that you would like to develop for the marketplace, and ask them which one they would prefer. So you ask them to rank all of them, or assess them, or categorize them. And then you can go out there and calculate how much utility the different attributes and attribute levels create for you. And so you can go out and calculate the relative relevance of the different attribute levels, or you can also, by assessing the utility that you create with your profile against the utility created of an other alternative profile, you can go out there and assess the differential in utility created and multiply this differential in utility created, so differential in utility multiplied by the monetary value of a unit of a utility. And so basically, if you take the price of competing offering and add to it what the competing offering is creating in more or less value compared to your offering, multiplied by the monetary value of a unit of utility, you will get the price of indifference. And so basically know which customer segment of the customer segments that you assessed thinks you will create more utility for them than the competing offering, and how much, given the amount of more utility you create for them, how much more value will you create from them in economic terms, and therefore at what price point they will prefer your product rather than competing product. Isn't it? And so basically you can go and make an assessment which customer segments to target, at what price point to target the different customer segments. Are you with me on this? And so basically here we say when it comes to concept evaluation, you need to study stimuli design and the different tools, the compositive and decompositive tools. Well, we said when it comes to opening up new value trajectory, doing all this, although being very beneficial for companies, will probably not be a good approach. Why? Because you will ask customers to make an assessment on something they cannot make an assessment, because they never used your product before, they never had the product before. So how can I assess something with what I'm not at all familiar with, especially because it's completely revolutionary new, something very innovative. It's not a new taste, or if I have more battery capacity of which I could assess. And so basically we said you could rely on a different methodology, namely the methodology of discovery-driven planning or discovery-driven growth. So we introduce here the methodology of double DDG, this time not for double G growth, but or DGP, double for discovery-driven growth and discovery-driven planning. Okay, and so basically said this tool is made up of 5 sets of documents, namely first, reverse financial statement. And so basically what is it saying? Don't go how it's traditionally done top down, that you say the market will be so big and if only I could get this share of the market, given the cost structure I would have to be put in place. That is very kind of you. Maximum will appreciate. Okay. The cost structure that you put in place, how much profits will generate, but no, because she gave you a warning that I'm about to come and not appreciate your conduct. And so basically I said it was kind of you to warn you. Okay, that was the issue. Okay, but you start the other way around. You say, in order to think this is an attractive business for me, how much profits will I have to generate to be able to generate this product and profits? How much, given my criteria for assessing the viability of a business, how much revenues will I have to generate, and to be able to generate this amount of revenues? To be able to generate this amount of revenues, how much units will I have to sell? And then the issue is for you to make an assessment: will it be ever realistic or feasible to sell this amount of units? N'est-ce pas? The second one is the key ratio comparison. So basically going out there and saying, if you propose me this business plan that you're going to propose me, tell me that you're in line with the key ratios of the industry, because everybody can put forward a business plan which is profitable. The question is it in line with the key ratios in the industry, what is really happening in the industry? Because I cannot believe a priori that you will have a more superior management team in place on all dimensions of managing a business, on the marketing dimension, or the financing dimension, on the production dimension, all the different dimensions. And so come up with the key ratio comparison. The third one is the so-called deliver specification. Now that you have told me how many units you will sell by year 5 or whatever year it is, tell me how you're going to deliver on it. So specify deliverables. So what is the marketing infrastructure, the sales infrastructure you have to put in place? How many salespeople will you need? What is the production infrastructure you have to put in place? How much does that cost? what is the logistics infrastructure you have to put in place, and so on and so on. And so delivery specification. Now with delivery specification, you show to me that you are able to hit the numbers. You're able to sell this amount of units given this infrastructure you put in place in marketing, in sales, in logistics, in delivery. Now the question is, should I launch it? I don't know yet because I need to do sensitivity analysis. So the fourth step is sensitivity analysis. And so what is the sensitivity analysis all about? Finding out what will happen to the business plan that you propose to me if some of the assumptions that you make are not valid assumptions. So if average order size is 20% less than the order size that you estimate. If time to acquire to a new customer takes some more visits by your salespeople than you have foreseen. If the drop rate from people willing to try to people to buy is higher than the drop rate that you have put in your business plan. And so basically, will your business be just a bit less profitable or will it be hugely loss-making? And so identify the key leverage points that are there in your business to then come up with a last set of documents, milestones to assumption map. So now that I know which are the most relevant assumptions, please tell me when you're going to test those assumptions. So please identify the different milestones that you have to go through in the project and let me know which assumption can you test at which milestone. And of course you want to test as many assumptions as early as possible. Okay? And you want to test as many assumptions as often as only possible. Reverse financial statement. So the 5 set of documents, reverse financial statement, key ratio comparison, deliver specification, sensitivity analysis, and milestones to assumption map. Okay. So what is the issue of basically this methodology? Where normally when it comes to budgeting for next year, in a company you need to hit the numbers. I mean, if in 2015 you don't hit the numbers that you put forward in 2014, your superior will not be at all happy about you because your superior had to share those numbers with someone. And so the assumption was the numbers that you put forward, you will be certainly able to hit them. Okay, and so normally the challenge is to make sure that you put forward numbers you can hit. Whereas in this methodology, the approach is different. No, I know that some of the numbers I will never hit. The issue is not even the numbers, the issue is the assumptions. So let me find out which are the most relevant assumptions. And if they are wrong, my whole business outlook will be completely different. And how early can I test those assumptions? So it's about testing as rapidly as only possible, at the low cost expenses as only possible, all your assumptions. Are you with me on this? And so basically, these were the tools on concept evaluation. After concept evaluation, we went into market sizing. We go into development, do alpha, beta, gamma testing, and part of the development will be also a financial analysis of the business you want to go in. And so for this, you need to be able to come up with sizing the market. So in market sizing, we first discussed the 4 hazards that make it very difficult for companies to go about market sizing, especially when it comes to innovative offerings. And the 4 hazards are that it's difficult for customers to articulate their preferences. Okay. Not that you have no historical data. The third, so the first, no historical data, difficult to articulate preferences, inflated projects from over-enthusiasm, and then competition from incumbent technologies. So it's not that fundamentally that your product is not superior to other products, but the other product is good enough for them, and so even you come up with a superior product, they will still prefer the other product because it's just doing fine for them. And so how can I size the market if I have no historical data, if I cannot rely on the preferences of the customers, if I cannot rely on what my engineers are saying, and anyway, even if my product is better than other products, basically customers might still not buy the new product because the old one is good enough. And we came up with the methodology of ATR. Okay, and ATAR basically said it's all about the different dimensions, namely A stands for awareness, T stands for trial, A stands for availability, R stands for repeat purchase. Yes, exactly. So the issue is, first, unless customers are aware of your product, they will never be able to buy it. So how much of the target customer group that you have as a reference will you be able to make aware of your product? So how much investments will you have to make in marketing communication to obtain a certain degree of awareness? Now, some of those who are aware about your product will still not try it. I mean, I guess most of you have been in the Paris metro and you have seen all those ads on the food delivery apps. Okay, Deliveroo, La Fourchette, Foodora, which is giving you now an 8 euros discount and so on. Okay, how many of you have downloaded one of those apps? Okay, so you see all of you being aware, but not a great many of you being willing to try one. And so the second issue you need to understand is what will be the trial rate. Even if I make customers aware of my product, the trial rate, and think about it, you are the target customer group for these companies. I mean, not only you, a great many other target segments going through the Paris metro. But I would definitely say that if I told them students from ÖCP Europe, would they identify them as a target customer groups for their Foodara, Deliveroo, La Fourchette application, they would certainly say, definitely so. And you see the trial rate is only at a certain level. Okay? Then you need to make it available. Availability, of course, with application it's simple as long as you design the app both for the iPhone platform as well as for the Android platform. But let's say, coming back to your assignment, I mean, how many people will be willing to buy a completely new product they never saw before just online? So saying that you sell it online, that if this is covered availability is just not the case. Because the percentage of people willing to buy online completely new products will be very low. And then you have to go after early adopters, so the 2% of the 2%, so it's 0.4%, so your market size will be very, very small. So you need to address availability issues. And then finally the repeat purchase. Now they bought your product, you downloaded the Foodora application, you cashed in the bonus, but are you now, you will keep on using the Foodora application, or just because you wanted to have once a free meal, you downloaded it and then will never use it again? Yes, you did very well. Okay, and so basically there we gave also the example of bases and basically how Nestle, thanks of this methodology, was able to size the market based on an ATAR approach. But we said, well, when it comes to really innovative offerings, it's not that you don't do ATAR. You do ATAR, but you need to complement ATAR by what? By the learnings we can get from consumer behavior literature and the Rogers model, and from mathematical modeling market literature and the BAS model. And so basically Rogers, what does Rogers say to us? Rogers says to us, we need to look at the innovativeness of the product and the innovativeness and the innovators. And so basically it looks on one dimension at the different dimensions, and on the other dimension of the adapter categories. So we distinguish adapter categories from innovators to early adopters to early majority, late majority laggards. I mean, they made the point that unless you get the early adopters, you will never get the early majority, and this can also explain to us why it's so difficult for large established corporations to come up with breakthrough innovations, because they cannot leverage what they consider to be their strength, that in marketing and distribution infrastructure. They need to create a new infrastructure to then, later on, once they will be successful with having created a new infrastructure, to get rid of the new infrastructure, to put in place again the old infrastructure. And we looked at the 5 dimensions that Rogers tells us, okay, about the product. So fundamentally, I can look at the product or the new technology and assess its relative advantage, assess its compatibility, its triability, its observability. and its complexity, and some would include another dimension, a dimension of the perceived risk. And by looking at those dimensions, I will be able to make an assessment whether the speed of adoption of the new technology of the product will be rapid or will be slow. In comes the bus model. In bus model, and I don't know, we have not yet discussed it, but let me just anticipate to you. Basically, what is the bus model doing? It's basically, through mathematical modeling, replicating those diffusion curves. And how is it doing so? By creating a mathematical model that works on a pure coefficient and on a p coefficient. And so it's basically like the Rogers models, there is a coefficient of innovators and a coefficient of imitators. And so basically here being the early adopters, the innovators, and then being the imitators. And so what you need to do is identify a reference product category which might you conceive to be similar to your product category. Take the P and Q coefficient of this reference category and plug them into the bus model, and it will give you what will be the total demand that you might aim at, or what might be time to take off. And there were 3 dimensions for identifying the reference category, fundamentally, whether it's basically underlying technological evolution in terms of market structure, whether it's concentrated or a fragmented market structure, and whether the purchase behavior process is similar. Once we go into market sizing, we will go into market testing. And so today we will also address the issue of market testing.
What were the 1 to 3 again?
The 3 were underlying technological evolution, the demand, the market structure, whether it will be a very consolidated market or a very fragmented market, and the purchase decision process, or the consumer journey, the buying decision process, whether it's similar or not. And so basically, then you want, of course, to compare your product category to categories which are similar in underlying technological evolution, similar in terms of market structure, and similar in the terms of buying decision process. In market testing, fundamentally, I will introduce you into the concept of pseudo, controlled, and full sale. So basically say to you, now that we launched it on the market, before we really go nationwide, we might benefit from a phase, because now we start really spending money, and this phase might be about a pseudo sale, a controlled sale, and a full sale, and basically we will see the different tools and methods to be used in there. So in a full sale, you already start selling. Here in a controlled phase, you sell, but not under normal conditions. And here you don't really sell. You create something artificially. And we will introduce in the launch management system, and basically in the 4 dimensions of the launch management system. So identify what might go wrong in a launch. Create a contingency plan for those variables that you think are where you need to keep under control. Once you create the contingency plan, come up with basically a tracking system. Okay, so you need to be able to track them and trigger points at what moment. Once you have tracked that you understand something did not go well with my launch, at what time you trigger that you put into place a contingency plan. Are you with me on this? So basically, if you know the 4 blackboard tables, can I say tables, that I've shown to you, then you know the course, okay? Our setup, and then the table on gap analysis, the table on identification, opening up new value trajectories, the table on concept evaluation, the table of market size and market testing. If you know those 4, you are in the condition to be able to pass the exam. Or even write an excellent exam. I mean, this is what I wanted you to take out of the course, the concepts I wanted you to assimilate, the concepts I wanted you to become familiar with. If you know this, what I've shown you, then you are well prepared. Are you with me on this? No, later today is relevant because I've shown to you, I will go later today on the bus model that we did not cover yet, and on market testing.
So market testing is also relevant.
Yes, what I showed to you. Yes?
Will the exam be open book?
No, no, closed book.
And so the calculations and methods we didn't apply in the case we have to calculate some kind of things as well. Do you want to do that?
Like, for example?